We start with a
That's
cheers.
right. Cheers.
And congratulations to the author on the new book.
Yes, the new book.
It's a heck of a book, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just in time for Father's Day.
Thank you.
What prompted it? Because it's a pretty honest, raw look at a situation that a lot of people might not be willing to share.
It was cheaper than therapy during the pandemic. No, it was a couple of things. I mean, when I started doing the series for the show on dads, I started to meet a lot of guys like us who were extraordinary in terms of the way they parent, but otherwise ordinary folks. And I think that led me to start to really look at the relationship I have with my dad, which, you've met Dad and we've come a long way, but growing up it was hard. There was the addiction, and then, there were multiple addictions, but for a long time, I sort of blamed him. I was angry, and then...
Was he around much?
Yeah, he was there. He was there physically, but when he worked third shift, which didn't help, obviously. He was sleeping during the day, working at night, and so I, grew up, and the older we got, the worse the drinking got. And by the time I left for college, we were, almost estranged in some ways. He wouldn't show up for, Little League. We're all there for our... Dad didn't
too much. I'm there too much.
Well, but what do you think it might also be, in a sense, generational and cultural?
Yes.
That, growing up, he was a black man in the South that at a tough time, a different time.
Yes. He, and this is something I found out during the course of the book. My dad didn't know who his father was until he was almost a teenager. And I think it's wholly unrealistic to expect someone to be something that they haven't seen.
Right.
So my dad didn't, he didn't have a dad. And so he did, exponentially better than his father had done. And so, that, and as sometimes, especially in the black community, especially back then, if you were just there, if you were in the house and you were working, that was enough.
That was it. The first line of your book gets me, the very first line, right? You remember the opening line?
Yeah, he was born in a West Virginia prison.
That's how the book opens. Whoa.
And fun fact, also the same prison that Billie Holiday served her time in. Martha Stewart did her time there. Back then, by standards of the 30s, it was very progressive for women in terms of teaching skills and trades. And but it's funny because by the time I come along, the only grandma I knew was the grandma that knew the Lord. She was at the church 4 or 5 days a week. She was an usher, and that was the grandma that I knew. I wish I had known what I knew now, back then, because I could have peppered grandma with all kinds of questions.
Right.
But here's the thing, you talk about you parent the way you were raised, and I've seen you as a parent, as a dad. You're a terrific dad. How did you make the jump?
Fortunately, along the way, I've always had men in my life who I could look at and emulate the behavior personally, professionally, like you two. I consider both of you mentors. You for different reasons than Carson.
Age.
Yeah, longevity.
Yes.
Although, hell, I guess the same could be said for you.
Maybe.
Carson Daly's been in the game a long time.
I have 4 kids.
So, no, it's but what's been cool is my dad was just up here 2 weeks ago. And he was up here for 6 days.
What is your relationship with him now?
It's best it's ever been. He'll call now and just random middle of the day, hey, just come check on you.
Has he read the book?
Oh, he was the first person to read it.
What did he say about it?
It's probably the most nervous I've been, minus when I proposed to my wife. Said, it's all there. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all he said. I said, any changes? Anything I got wrong? He's like, no. It's all there. Didn't change a word.
You think
a story.
he recalls the past as you do?
There are parts of the book that he did not remember.
I'm sure, yeah.
There are parts of the book, there are good chunks of the book where he didn't know that I felt the way that I did at the time. Because I didn't. We just didn't talk like that.
Right.
That's not the... I've heard you talk about the relationship you had with your dad. You had a pretty... Sounds like a pretty solid relationship with your dad.
Yeah.
I have one now. I'm thankful for it now.
Right.
I wish I'd had it, 20 years ago, but what can you do?
But I see these pictures of your dad with your kids, and it makes me smile. I think about it now, and what a great gift.
It's the greatest gift, Al. When he was up here a couple weeks ago, he played in that driveway. He played basketball with Dell.
So great.
In like 90-degree heat.
That's all Dell will ever know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is all that matters.
Riding bicycles. We went to Dell's soccer game. He's on the sideline. Like, he's like coaching the team. Like, he was that into it. First 30 seconds of the game, my son hadn't scored all season. First 30 seconds of the game, dribble, 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 shoot, score. And my dad was like standing like inches away from me and got to see that. He never made it to any of my soccer games or baseball games, a couple baseball games, but having him experience that,
right?
I don't know. It really, in terms of our relationship right now, it's just, I'm so thankful for it. So thankful. Because, it could have gone another way.
What has the reaction been from people who thought that they knew you and didn't realize you have this story to tell?
I think the reaction is akin to what you just said. I don't think there are a lot of people that really know me, and that's not a good thing, probably. But my dad was always walled off. I've never been a fan of emoting,
right,
or sharing, and
what does it feel like to get it? It's out there now. People are reading about it.
I've never been more nervous or frightened or scared or anxious.
Don't you feel relieved?
No.
That's not a
I don't
thing?
think I do relief.
Wow.
I was relieved. Scott said, I was relieved when my dad read it.
Right.
And my dad signed off on it. And I was like, okay. Halfway through, I realized I wasn't writing this book for like strangers. I was writing it for me. I wrote it for my dad.
Right.
I wrote it for my kids.
That's why it's a good book.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, that helped frame everything. The highlight was I would go down to the basement and I'd pour myself a little bourbon and I would interview Dad. And so I've got like hours of his voice. I'd never heard my grandfather's voice, either one of them. So I've got hours of his voice on tape.
That's cool.
Like answering questions. Like there's stuff not in the book, like that's on tape. That the great grandkids are here one day and they're like, oh, my great grandfather, he was a piece. He was a piece of work.
I will tell you the gift that you've given your children without even realizing it. And Carson, I don't know, you've lost your dad.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always dealt with is, I remember what he looks like. I know what but I've had to like play back some video recordings because I can't remember his voice.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I know his voice, but just so
mine.
I can hear it, I have to go and put in the VHS and watch it.
At least
just
you have
to
his
hear.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was on the show once, too.
Yeah.
You don't have recordings, Carson?
I do, actually. It's on a medium that I don't even know what it is. It's the smallest little cassette tapes.
Yeah.
But
Those
yeah,
dictaphone tapes.
Dictaphone tapes, yes, I do have them. And on the heels of this, I'll go back and listen because when my dad died when I was 5, I remember feeling tremendously guilty, even though my mom married Dick, my stepdad, who I credit for being, I always say God bless me with 2 incredible dads. But I used to feel guilty as a kid because I was so young when my dad passed that I forgot what he looked like and what he sounded like, and I thought that was my fault. I remember that. I remember working through that as a kid. But then I was so quickly replaced by such a great dad that it all fell into place.
You said something a moment ago, jokingly. You said this is cheaper than therapy, but you said you talk with your therapist.
Oh yeah.
Again, something that a lot of men don't want to admit to or admit that.
By the way, to build on that, I've been doing so much work in the mental health space, as you both know. Fathers and sons going there and having a conversation. How are you feeling today? What's in your feelings? That's something else that is. Just doesn't happen, especially in communities of color.
No.
And I think about your book being out and you being so willing to talk about this. Have you thought about the impact that you're having for young men who look like you?
That's the hope. That's the hope. Like I have a number of friends who are either estranged from their dad or have these terrible relationships with their fathers. And I wrote it in part for them and for that reason. Like there's a part in the book I write about where I knew that my dad was a changed man when I went to his rehab facility. And part of the rehab was you have to sort of, you make amends and you write these letters and you talk face to face with the people that you've wronged. And I get down to Statesboro, Georgia, and I see my dad, and he gives me this big hug. And we're not big huggers.
Right.
We're not a hugging family. It's like, oh, Dad's hugging. And he gives me this hug, and I'm crying. He's crying. He gives me this letter that he's written. 40 years, my dad's never written me a letter. Right. But he's written me this letter. And we sat, and we had breakfast. And it was just, like, it's one of those, like, I know on my deathbed, I'll remember that day. And in that moment, like, I knew it had worked. But a large part of what he did in rehab was therapy. Like, every day, individual sessions,
work,
group sessions. It is work, but it worked.
Yeah.
And then after that, he did 90 days of AA meetings, 90 straight days every day. But no, like we don't talk about it as fathers and sons, and especially in our community, Al. Yeah. Like, it's just not. But it's getting better.
It's never
getting
too
better.
late for your dad to be a hero, though, right? Like, as sons, when you look up to your dad,
yes.
It's never too late. Like, we love our dads so much. As a dad, we think, oh, I blew it, man. Like, I can't go back and make you can't have there's not a first impression after, there's not a second impression after the first or whatever. You can't go back in time. But as a son, we're like, that breakfast, that was everything. That's all you needed. Yep. Like, you're good now. You remember it on your deathbed.
Yep. Yeah.
As a son, we think that, but as dads, we probably bear that burden that we have to be good for their entire lives.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. My dad was more the nurturer than my mother was.
Really?
My dad was a hugger,
a
kisser. I didn't know that men weren't supposed to kiss until I'd go to some family reunions, and I'd go to my Uncle Champ. Hey, Uncle Champ. Whoa, hey, how you doing?
Not how we do it
and
here.
that's right. What's going on there? This is a different kind of movie, So
meanwhile, we hug and kiss. I mean, of course, you're probably the same way. I know you are. Hug and kiss the kids all the time.
Every second I get.
Yeah, all the time.
Every second.
It's but it's interesting because Carson, you just said something. Like, it's never too late for dad to be a superhero, and that's part of what I wanted people to take away. Like, it's not a story of like addiction and absenteeism and. It's a story of resilience, a story of overcoming. It's a story of how when there's someone that you love, you don't write them off. Like, it's, there are a lot of folks that have people in their lives that struggle with addiction, and they just get to a point, it's like, I've done all I can do.
Yeah.
I've done all I can do. And we got to that point, and this was sort of our last-ditch effort, and we tried before, and lo and behold, this time, he went into rehab, and it changed. Now, granted, he was drunk at the time he went to rehab, didn't remember the intervention. Right. But once he got in,
that's why he was there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you all for reading the book, by the way.
It's a great book.
It's terrific.
That means
congratulations on it.
Yeah.
Another thing that sticks out for me about the book is to be a great father, it takes great women in your life. And I've been lucky enough, my mom, who you both knew, was such a powerful force in my life, losing her husband and her mother in the same year in 1979, her raising us. She was so important. And then my sister, who's my older sister, who basically raised me. I wondered about the women in both of your lives that you attribute some of your successful fathering to.
My mother, like there's
like, you can't be as good of a father as you are now without her, right?
No way.
Right, me neither.
Not even fatherhood. Like, I would
personhood.
Yeah. Like, my mother, God bless her. Like, she grew up in the 50s and 60s. To moms.
To mothers.
To moms. Because we get the Father's Day, but we all know behind every good father is an even better woman. Yeah.
No, my mom, she grew up 50s and 60s. First, like, to integrate her high school. Grew up in the projects and got kicked out of the projects because they couldn't pay rent, moved to some new projects. Like, her dad wasn't around, like, dealt with addiction. Then she had to practically help rear her 3 siblings. She was the first in the family to go to college, first in the family to get a master's degree. And when my father started to struggle mightily in the 80s and 90s especially, first with booze, then with gambling, my mom had to go out and get a second job. Like, she was a school teacher. She would teach, come home, make sure that we hadn't killed each other, my younger brother and I, and then she would go work at this pharmacy to
And
make
what little
ends
money
meet.
she was making teaching,
Yes.
he'd gamble it away.
Yes. Oh, it was.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It was like, and so obviously when you're 12, 13, you don't appreciate that.
Right.
But as I've gotten older,
Right.
like mom, like she put the family on her back for like a decade,
Right.
and carried us, and
Right.
and all the while made certain that we
Didn't feel it?
No, we didn't feel it.
No.
And there was never, like, we could never use anything as an excuse. Like, it's not like, oh, my dad's got these addiction issues, I'm struggling in high school, or oh, I can't. No, Mom, there was no, like, if you complained, you did not. It was just, and looking back on it, because at the time, all we did was complain.
Sure.
It's like, oh, Mom's got to go to violin. Oh, she signed me up for oratorical contests. Like, that was my high school activity.
Right.
Which is what made you who you are today.
Well, and now you realize it, but back then I was like, dude, Mom is just, and now, I love my father, and we've come to a good place. But let me tell you, I would walk across hot coals.
Right.
Now that being said, Carson, Al, I gave her a copy of the book.
Mm-hmm.
The book is called Pops, so
yeah.
it's a book about my father, naturally.
course.
So I give her a copy just to make sure it was all accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just factually accurate.
Yeah.
Right. Typos and stuff.
Things like that. Yeah, I just want to make sure my memory
Enough
is
enough mentions of Betty Lou.
Got
well.
uncle's
she-
name's correct and dates and times.
She used it as an opportunity to make notes.
What did she say? What were her notes?
What didn't she say, Carson?
Oh.
I got a series
Like
of
pages
notes.
of notes?
Conversations of notes. And she would say things like, because I love my mother, but she can be a little passive aggressive. She'd say, well, I mean, that's how you and your father remember it. Oh, well, I mean, that's how you remember it. I mean, there were some.
Right.
And then so I had to get to a point where I realized, oh, I know what this is about. Like, she carried the family, but I wrote a book about,
Right. Right.
Dad. So the next book will have to be.
Be moms.
It'll have to
Right.
be. It'll have to be
Oh,
Betty Joe.
There you go.
Got it.
Have you ever thought about writing a book about, like, your mom and dad and
Well, I've included them in some
I
of the past books. And like I said, my mom was one of those people who, like she was the first black cheerleader at John Adams High School in Queens. Back in the 40s. And
that's a big deal. Like that's the 40s.
Yeah,
That's,
my dad was a black man who was an artist, couldn't get a job as a commercial artist, so he got a job as a bus driver to support his family. And she went out and worked as a a nursing assistant when we were younger, and eventually ended up staying home. But they were partners, Al and Izzy. You didn't see one without the other. And in fact, after he passed, I couldn't quite put my head around just dealing with her by herself because they were a
tandem.
They were a package.
Yeah.
They were a package deal. But she was honest. She was one of these. When I did the toast for Leela Courtney's wedding, one of the things my mother said when she first met Deborah, after they got to know each other for a while, she said, Deborah said, "Oh, I love you, Mom," and she goes, "Well, I like you a lot. I don't know you well enough. to
Love's a
say
big
I
word.
love you, but I like you. I'm sure I'll come to love you." And I was like, "Oh boy!" And don't think I didn't hear about that.
Right.
But they did come to love each other, and I'm so fortunate that Deborah puts up with me.
I think we try and extract some things that our parents did that we like about parenting, and then there's other things they did for us that I actually don't think was great. Like an example is my mom gave my sister when she was 16 a new car, and that was like, wow, she gets a new car at 16, that's pretty cool. And then she proceeded to, every time my sister did anything remotely on, she'd be, "Give me the keys of that car.
Oh.
Give me the key. I bought you a car," and I'd be like, "That's not fair." Like,
oh yeah.
Just take the car. I don't even want the car if you're going to use it against me. So,
Yeah.
that's something I probably wouldn't do. But, in our generation, there's so much helicopter parenting. Every parent wants to be their kid's best friend. So I find it hard, and I'm always looking to strike the balance of being very close with my kids and being on the level with them. I play Fortnite with Jackson, or I get on TikTok. I want to know what they're seeing and doing and be on their level, but also not be their best friend, still be dad.
Yeah.
And I will be that bad guy, and I want to teach them right from
Have to.
wrong.
It's
And
tricky to
tell
find
them
the
the hard
balance.
truths of life. I'm not afraid to go there. I try and make everything a teachable moment.
It is tricky. It's tricky to find that balance. How did you? I mean, in terms of not spoiling the kids.
You know,
how do you?
I'm proud. I mean, Nick doesn't. Only Nick actually has a little after school job, but all of my kids have a job.
They always have.
Have had a job.
Really?
High school, in college.
I had that. My parents had to get a job.
Yeah,
Did you work?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
My parents were always like, "Got to get a job." 15.
And so that was expected of me. And
did you make that a thing for them? Did they know?
What I guess I was kind of proud of, and they've seen Dad and Mom work hard. They just wanted it. They liked earning their own money.
Right.
So again, we couldn't say, well, lord it over them. They had their own spending cash.
Yeah, right.
So I really do. I remember my dad said, I said, why can't you be more like my friend? He goes, I'm not your friend. I'm your father.
Right.
And there was this is not a democracy.
No.
Right.
No.
But the truth can be somewhere in the middle there. I
Yes,
to have
absolutely.
that. I want to rule with an iron fist too. I always say, I brought you into this world. I can take you out.
Yeah.
There
That
are
doesn't
rules
work.
in this house.
It doesn't work. It used
But
to.
you can't do that all the
Everything's
way.
changed.
It has changed.
It's changed. And listen, like I said, I mean, my oldest is 34. I've seen it change. I've seen it change between Nick and Leela.
Oh, for sure.
You've got to adapt because
I text with my 6-year-old. My 6-year-old
She can
texts me.
text.
She can text from her little iPad.
Wow. That's
And
impressive.
emote, and she can spell because she can speak into the thing. So it's like I'm having a conversation with like an 18-year-old. But she's 6.
Smokes.
It's crazy. Yeah. Technology has just changed the way parenting.
And I don't think it's changed it necessarily for the better.
no, but I do
except
think,
knowing where they are. I love
Yes.
knowing where they are.
That's true.
But one of the things I think my mother drilled into me was certain etiquette, which I think is important to this day. I mean, I'm very proud of my son. He's got his issues, but when he gets a gift or whatever, he
Handwrites a letter.
Handwrites a letter.
He does. I've gotten a Nick Roker note before.
And that's, I think those things.
And you shake someone's hand, you look them in the eye.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
sir, no, sir.
Our parents passed certain things on that, to me, I think are timeless, and it's our job to pass those on.
Let me tell you the biggest issue we've had recently in terms of perspective. Like, you remember, it was dinner time when we were growing up. Like, you ate what you ate. Like, whatever mom cooked,
This
that
is
was
a great
dinner.
point. I like where you're going with this.
That was it.
Right.
Like, they were
It
dinner.
could be a fish. It could be some sort of
Right.
meat you
You're
didn't
like,
recognize.
here's
but you
food.
ate it because it was on your plate.
Yes. Well, now we sit down for dinner.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like they think this is like some sort of 4-star restaurant.
Well, that's your own fault.
I'm not eating
I
this.
know. I know.
No.
My daughter will say to me, "Oh, I can't eat that." I'm like,
No,
"What are you
no,
talking-
no,
That's
no.
a
No,
that's
we
a
make
hamburger."
I make one
I
meal.
don't like fish today.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, I don't
Today.
like fish today.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
one
the fish
meal,
likes
and
you
that's
today
it.
and every day.
Yes.
One
Yeah.
meal. You're eating what we
Well-
look. We're fortunate because the kids.
We don't. We make mac and cheese.
No.
Pasta.
not
This is
right.
what
They
we're
get like
eating.
3 options every dinner.
This is the generational difference.
It
Like,
is.
I want to be like that.
Well, it's
But
just listen.
We fall.
No,
we don't feel like fighting in that moment. We just want. It's going to ruin my dinner.
That's it.
Make them some mac and cheese.
That's it.
It's been 3 nights in a row. So what?
That's it.
Why ruin the night?
No, because
right
in the
there with you.
long term, it's easier. It's
not the right answer,
You
but-
fight the no. Listen, I get it. But again, I don't right now. I don't have 4 kids under 12, 13.
get my head
I don't have 2 kids under 8. But early, and I never had. I mean, I had Courtney, and then 11 years later, I had Leela and Nick. So I never had.
Yeah.
I always outnumbered them.
That's true.
Right.
That's a good point. I don't know how you do it. Like your name came
I love
up.
every second of it, and it's
great.
My wife. I mean,
Oh, that's
it's my
serious.
wife, man. One point I want to get for Father's Day.
Yes.
How great is it to watch your kids be with each other? And I was thinking about Courtney getting married and Nick there dancing. What is it like? How great is it to see your kids with each other? The sibling thing. Jack and Etta kind of fight a little bit, but I'll catch them sometimes. And it's at night. Good night, Jackie, and she'll come over and good night. I love you. I love you. They have their own little exchange, not prompted by me or Siri, and it's like that is the greatest moment.
It's and it's funny. They go. I think as they go in and out,
Yes.
as they're
Yes.
growing old. But
Yes.
once they get to a certain age, they know that
The love is there.
these 3 people or 2 people, that is the love that will never go away.
Yep.
That they know each other has each other's back.
Right.
And that it's them against us. So as a cohesive unit, they can come after us. Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.